Good morning. Julie, there, I see you back in. Okay. Looks like you're having trouble with the camera as well, Ruth.
Well, my camera, I don't, the last meeting and stuff, I'm not worried about my camera if it doesn't work. As long as I can hear and you guys can hear me, that's good enough for me.
Okay. David's going to work on that. I think we're all present, so, and it is a little bit after 9. We'll get started and call to order. And the first thing we'll do, since Jody can't see y'all, is we'll actually do a roll call for attendance. Jody, go ahead.
Commissioner Gaines,
Here.
Commissioner Caswell.
Here.
Commissioner Brown,
Here,
Commissioner Carolyn.
Here.
Okay, and then Mark Wiley is here, so thank you.
Thank you. Roll call is completed. We're all present. So if you'd please join us in prayer and pledge. Namu, you're up.
All right, thank you. Let's just honor God today, and I'm sorry about the video not working, but we just like to honor God today in every possible way. Almighty God, we know that everything is in your sovereign control. We ask that you keep this new coronavirus from continuing to spread. Give us, as government officials, the ability to safely handle people and prayerfully lead the county with all the work that we have been assigned with. And not only that, but we just give you the glory, but because as the Bible clearly says in Psalm 46, 1 and 2, God is our refuge and strength and ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will fear not, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea. With all that, we ask in your precious name. Amen. Let's say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen.
Thank you. Okay, public comment. Anyone wish to address the board? Okay, we'll move along to consent agenda.
Mark. On the consent agenda 20-034,
Yes.
I have a question on that one.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. If you'd like, we can pull that and move it down.
Now let's pull it and put it under Julie.
Okay. The 2033 needs to be pulled as well because we've got some discussion on that via the union. So
Put that under me also.
yeah, put both of those 33 and 34 are moved down under Julie in the be added to the regular agenda.
I can make a motion for that we move 20033 and 20034 under Julie Games.
Support.
Supported. All those, we got to do a roll call on that motion.
Commissioner Carolyn,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Gaines,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley.
Yes.
Yes.
With that, now I would entertain a motion on the consent agenda as amended.
I move that we approve the consent as amended.
Support.
Is that supported, please?
Julie.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Gaines,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes?
Commissioner Caswell,
Yes.
and Commissioner Carolyn.
Yes.
You
Okay,
do realize that every single motion and resolution we have to have a roll call, right? Okay, just so there.
yep. I believe everyone, just for clarification, you do understand that under this format, we have to do a roll call on every single motion and or resolution. So just for clarification.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, please go ahead.
I want you to know on that last roll call vote, I voted twice, and it was not because there was Russian collusion. It was because I couldn't hear.
Duly noted. Duly noted. Thank you. Next item is the correspondence. Is there any, there is quite a bit of correspondence because everything that was to be on the previous meeting that was canceled was moved forward. So is there any comments on correspondence? Hearing none, we will move to the regular agenda. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Is there any additions or corrections to the regular agenda? Bear in mind, we did move 33 and 34 down under Julie. Anything else?
Well, I'll just comment, it doesn't matter, I guess, but the approval of the operational telephone surcharge 20029 really should be under Commissioner Carolyn. I'm secondary on that committee now.
Okay, that's fine. We will take that up after Doug's presentation.
Okay, well, I'll just defer to her at that point.
That'll be fine. We'll move 2029 down under Commissioner Carlin.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question here.
Please.
I'm hoping that everybody can hear me clearly, but I can't see myself on the video. So I'm wondering if the video is still working or not.
Video's not working, but you're coming in loud and clear.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I believe we've got the motion on the floor for the regular agenda. Is there any further comments? Hearing none. Go ahead, Jody.
Commissioner Gaines,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Caswell,
Yes.
Commissioner Carolyn,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Very good. The regular agenda is approved. Keep in mind, we must keep our sense of humor during these troubled times. So,
Okay.
in any event, that brings us up to our standing order, and Nick is with us here today. So he will start his presentation. I am going to turn my device so that you can see him. I hope. All right. Go ahead. He's a little far away, but there he is.
Can everybody hear me okay with this mask on?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. It's kind of weird, 18th year doing this, I never would have imagined it would be like this. But the show must go on, as they say. So, did everybody get my report that I emailed on Tuesday? Did anybody not get that?
I received it.
Okay. So what I like to do, I'm not gonna go through the whole report. I tried that once and it did not work very good, so I won't count that under this scenario either. So generally what I do is I read the opening letter and report. And at that point, I would ask that the commissioners, if there are any questions, approve the numbers as recommended by me and my department. So with that, I will read the letter on page 2 of the report. Honorable Commissioners, The Equalization Department has completed review of the 2020 assessment rolls as submitted by the township and city assessors. The assessed values for each class of real and personal property are compared to the starting ratios that were projected for the individual classes based on the department's study activity in 2019. Real property classes are required to be equalized individually, and the personal property class equalized as a whole. Appraisal and sales studies were conducted in all assessing jurisdictions to determine the starting base for preparation of the 2020 assessment rolls. After review of the 2020 assessment rolls of the 18 townships and 4 cities in Hillsdale County, the Equalization Department recommends adoption of the equalized values of real and personal property as follows. For real property, agricultural, 601,182,451. For commercial, 99,128,873. For industrial, 41,425,676. For residential, 1,210,555,085. And developmental, 548,000. Bringing a grand total of the real property class of 1,952,840,085. Total personal property, 80,670,469. Given a grand total, recommended total real and personal property value of $2,033,510,554. The above equalized values are recommended in compliance with sections 209.5 and 211.34 of Michigan compiled laws. Respectfully submitted, Nicholas Wheeler, Director of Hillsdale County Equalization. So with that, I will ask if there's any questions or if would be a motion to approve these numbers as recommended.
I'd like to make the motion to approve the numbers as recommended.
I second that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
Nick, bottom line, cut through all the gobbledygook and everything else. What is it looking like for percent increase in property taxes for next year? 1.9, 2.2, what?
If you look on, the quickest way is to look on page 16 of the report.
Yeah, I saw all that. Just give me a number.
It gives three, and I want to make a comment after this, so bear with me. The taxable value increase, of which we're not necessarily here for today, but I know that's always the question, is 3.34%. But keep in mind, with that, I am anticipating a small heavily rollback of the millage, so that will decrease the tax collection, so we won't realize a full 3.34% increase because the millage will be rolled back slightly as well. So it's still probably looking at a little over 3%.
Still, even with the rollback, we're looking at around 3%.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Chairman, the reason I point that out is just for the other commissioners' knowledge, the revenue sharing that we get from the state of Michigan is about $1 million. That is predicated on sales tax money that comes in. And obviously, the sales tax money is going to be way down. And having said that, we also have a considerable amount of money in our budget come from court fines, assessments, and so on. The courts are not completely closed down, but pretty much. So there's going to be a considerable drop in revenue from the courts as well as from revenue sharing. We should expect that for this year. So as we move forward next year, if we get this increase 3%, I think this year we got about 2.2%. That will be helpful. We're going to have to start thinking about what we're going to do this year in terms of the reduced revenues. So just something to think about moving forward. So thank you, Nick.
Okay. Any further comments or questions for Nick?
I just want to comment. This is Namu Carlin, Mr. Chairman. I read through the preliminary equalization report, and I just want to appreciate, even during the time that we were not able to convene, I just want to formally appreciate Mr. Wheeler for all the efforts that he's placed and the figures and place it for everybody to look at, and it was expeditiously done. So I just want to comment on that and the accuracy, but I did send him an email in appreciation, so I just wanted to publicly comment. I concur with Bruce as well to think about how we're going to proceed further this year as it relates with all the other, happening, the pandemic that's affected us. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments for Nick?
Follow up to that. I can't take all the credit. You gotta look at under the circumstances of this came about during the process of the local reviews at the townships and cities. And so for them all to convene and adjourn and then the assessors, the data to me, this couldn't have happened without a collaborative effort of many township supervisors, members, township assessors, cities assessors, and my office. So I can't take all the credit, but I appreciate but I do want to extend that to everybody that's involved in this process up to this point.
Point well taken. It was a team effort. Any other comments? Okay, the motion on the floor is to approve Nick's report. So Jody, go.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Caswell,
Yes.
Commissioner Carlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Gaines.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Nick.
So just to follow up, after this process, we will go either to the state or the county or the state equalization process that will proceed through the month of May. So towards the end of May, this will hopefully all be finalized. So
Hopefully.
but we, after this, we are done at the county level for now.
Okay. Very good.
Okay?
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
Nick, I just want to say thanks. Another good job. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, you already gave everything to Jody that I need to sign. Okay, we'll get that done. Thank you. All right, moving right along, that brings us up to Doug Stanford and 911. You're on, sir.
Very good. Thank you. And good morning, everyone. As you probably recall, under state law enacted back in 2007, 2008, every year a county must certify to the state 911 office what our telephone surcharge will be for the 12 months that begins July 1st. So we presented in our March meeting at the 911 board the numbers that I'm about to share in brief with you. Right up front, our board is recommending a 10-cent increase to the current $2.50, making it, if you approve, $2.60 starting July 1st. But here's how we arrived there. Every year, we look at the dollars, we look at the numbers of phones that are reported to us. We analyze those based on past history, based on current receipts, and we try to make an effort as economically as we can to make the best use of those dollars, of course, but we also have to be sure that we're properly funding the things that we need to do, 911 costs that serve the citizens of Hillsdale County. So looking at those numbers from the end of 2018 to the end of 2019, the phone companies are actually reporting 1,278 less phone lines. That translates into 37,573 less income. There may be a lot of reasons for that. The phone companies, of course, don't analyze that or even look at it as far as we know, except from their marketing side. We may have a few less people, maybe a lower population, I don't know. There is the possibility of prepaid phones. A lot of people, as they switch to those, will affect that number. Those folks that use a prepaid phone still pay into a 911 surcharge fund, but it goes through the state, and it's not the same rate that we have here locally for phones that are billed to an individual's address or to their business. And we still continue to see, I believe, a smaller reduction, not as big as it used to be, but a smaller reduction in landline phones. All of those and probably some other factors are entering into the reduction in the phone lines. But we know that we'll see approximately $37,700 and $573 less in income just because of the reduction in phone lines. It's important for us to maintain a fund balance. Right now, we have $335,000 in the treasurer's office, the bank, so to speak, as of the end of March. And that may sound like a lot of money, but it's only about 3 months operating expenses. And we'd like to have about 6 months operating expenses in reserve in the bank. We have several projects that are coming up. Of course, we're still paying on our building. That's got about another 7 years to go. We're making good progress, but that'll take a little while longer. One of our major systems, our radio console, is reaching end of life later this year. That's going to be several $1,000s. We need to make sure we can afford to be able to have the radio systems that we need to talk to the first responders that are out there every day, making a difference in Hillsdale County. We are hoping at some point, not too far down the line, to make an adjustment in the actual radios themselves to go to something called simulcast. We can talk more about that if you'd like offline, but it'll allow everybody out there to hear us and hear each other a little better, hopefully a lot better, if we're able to go there. We have taken some steps to try and save money. We were in bad need of new furniture for the dispatch center. Those pieces of equipment, the furniture, are used 24 hours a day, and they had just worn out. We didn't have the money to buy new, but our neighbor to the east, Lenawee County, when they moved into the new sheriff's building, was able to purchase for their dispatch center new equipment, their new furniture, and they graciously made their old equipment available to us. All we had to do was come and take it apart, bring it over here, clean it up, and put it back together, which we've done. And so for the time being, we've met that particular need. There are some other things down the road that we know are coming with regards to our radio towers and that sort of thing. We just want to be able to ensure that we can continue providing the services to our citizens and, of course, support for our first responders. And so basically, I will let you ask some questions if you have any. But again, our recommendation is a 10-cent increase to $2.60 per month per device starting July 1st. And by the way, that 10 cents should bring in about $38,000, almost the amount that we're losing, which is why that was chosen. And you might ask, when did we last increase our fee? It was in 2016. We increased it 8 cents at that point. Mark, back to you if there are any questions.
Is there any questions for Doug, please?
Mr. Chairman?
Bruce, go ahead.
Doug, in a while back, the voters of the county held a vote and approved levying up to $3 on this phone charge. Am I correct?
Yes, you are correct, sir.
When did that election take place?
August, or first week in August.
Of what year?
This 19.
Okay. So in 19, I just want to make this clear to everyone. In 2019, the voters of this county approved levying up to $3. Now, we've never levied $3. And one way to look at this is, as Doug said, this is a 10-cent increase from what we paid last year. The other way to look at this is that the voters have said it's okay to levy up $3, and we're still levying 40 cents less the voters approved a year ago to levy. So you can look at the glass being half empty or half full. And I've had a couple people speak to me about the fact that this is an increase and we can't afford it and so on. That's true. It's an increase, but it's still 40 cents below what the voters approved in a referendum last August of 19. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce.
Namu, did you have a question?
Well, Mr. Chairman, in regards with the financial anxiety that is currently in the air all throughout Hillsdale County, I'm just glad that we're able to participate during this pandemic over the WebEx, but I still don't see all the public obviously on it. I mean, for me, I understand the comment that Commissioner Caswell made that it was all approved by the taxpayer last August, correct me if I'm wrong. But as it relates to the situation that we're in, without having to have our entire public in general to participate as it relates with this increase, and I understand it's only 10 cents. What difference is it, right? Cents or $10? But many folks who are not going to be able to pay their phone bill lost their jobs. So here we could increase it to 10 cents. My other issue is why can't we wait till after July or after the whole situation of the coronavirus is all overcome and we're back again with our economy? I understand the funds have to be received, and with this 10 cents increase, I'm estimating roughly $38,000, which will come into this 911 central dispatch for necessities. But my only anxiety here is because of this widespread concern right now, the economy gone down, and many lost their jobs. I cannot understand if we're going to have a 10-cent increase and people not be able to pay their bills, phone bills. And many of them are in this boat. So, like I said, if I'm to represent my people who are not present today on this phone, on this public event or county meeting, I'm not able to figure out what their minds are really at the moment with this 10-cent increase, even though the taxpayers levied that certain amount in August and they passed it. So that's my only concern, and it's a comment. So that's it. That's all I have to say right now.
Okay. Anyone else wish to comment at this time?
Commissioner Wiley, Chief Mike
Yes.
Lance from Jonesville, if I can make a comment.
Go ahead, Chief.
For Namu, just a commentary on the surcharge of 10 cents. We are lower than most counties in the area. I am the chairman of the Emergency Telephone Services Board and would just say that 10-cent increase to meet the demands that are put upon our public safety system at this time. 911 is really our backbone. I understand, given the pandemic that we're currently in, I understand the economic concerns, but when I look at the cost that 911 is going to face here in the next 5 years, given the equipment that we're currently working with at its maximum life and capacity, medical dispatching and the rave system, the services that we provide, to me, 10 cents as Commissioner Caswell had already talked about, approved by the voters, as well as the new building. We need to stay on track, and we need the commissioners to vote to approve the millage as recommended by Mr. Sanford. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to make a comment at this time?
I'd just like to say, Mark, this is Commissioner Gaines, that I had a long conversation with Doug about this because I also have had constituents that have concerns moving forward about being able to pay their bills, and was there any other way to do this? And, you know, we are not, as a county, obligated to have 911. We have it because the voters voted for it, and as Bruce stated, up to $3 per phone line a month. And we're trying to keep it, you know, as relatively low as we can and still fund our 911. This is the only funding they receive in the county. This is how they operate. So if we want to have the services that they are providing us and have 911 service in the county, this is the way we have to do it, and we have to be able to support the cost. So I'm in agreement.
Anyone else wish to make a comment at this time? This is a very important service, a critical service. I know that the center handles, and Doug, how many average calls a day do they handle? Roughly. You're muted. There you go.
My apology. Yes, it differs greatly from day to day, from time of the year. Right now, knock on wood, our calls are actually quite down as many people do stay home and stay safe.
Okay. But it's still a very important service for our community.
Well, we feel it is. And today and this week actually is National Telecommunicator Week across the nation, and maybe this country too, where everybody should hopefully stop and thank the people that they know, from a safe distance, of course, for the work they do in dispatching police, fire, and EMS services.
Thank you, Doug. At this time, Nemo, if you would take up 20-29, we will take that right now while we've in this discussion on the surcharge.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So also a really quick comment I just wanted to give before I read the resolution is I want to thank Doug and Chief, I think it's Chief Lance, is that right, who was talking a while earlier?
Yes.
Okay, and I appreciate the comments, and I understand the criticality as well. And my only hopes are that we would be able to function, because as I understand, I do not want to see the 911 in any kind of a red. You know, the only thing is we've got to be able to help our constituents in any shape or form, especially during this time. So with that given said, I want to thank Chief Lance and Doug for the presentation and the comments. And thank you for the clarifications. But thank you also for understanding my comments. But I'm glad we're able to have this dialogue. And so with that, I'm going to be reading my resolution 20-029 to the Honorable Board of Commissioners. The operational telephone surcharge for enhanced 911 services in Hillsville County shall increase 10 cents to a rate of $2.60 per month on all devices capable of utilizing 911 services effective the first day of July 2020 and continuing through the last day of June 2021. We hereby instruct the County Central Dispatch 911 Director to notify the State 911 Committee of this rate as prescribed by law. Respectfully submitted, Samantha Carl, Chair, Public Safety Judiciary.
Support.
All right, resolution's been moved and support. Any further discussion? I know we've had quite a bit of discussion, but I'll allow one more opportunity if someone wants to address it. Hearing none. Jody?
Commissioner Caswell,
Yes.
Commissioner Carolyn,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Hi. Yes.
Commissioner Gaines,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley.
Yes. Resolution passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Chief Lance.
Thank you.
Okay, that moves us up to committee reports. And Julie, you're first up, please.
So first we'll take up 20-033, the Honorable Board of Commissioners. We recommend the approval of the Hillsdale County Facilities Director to hire a part-time maintenance person. Respectfully submitted, Julie Games.
Hello?
This,
I'll support that. And that, so this resolution was a
follow-up.
follow-up to a motion that was passed 4 weeks ago.
Yes.
Okay, and I moved it down because we wanted to have some discussion, and I believe Leanne was going to call in. Are you on, Leanne?
Yes, I am.
There you go. I'll let you talk first.
All right, thank you. This is Leanne from SEIU. Sorry I did not make it to the March 10th meeting. I was at another meeting for my township. I'm a little perturbed about this because Randy and I, when Randy came to me and told me about this being a part-time position, I was very hesitant of losing another full-time position. My concern is that when Randy told me, he says, well, you know, if this goes to a part-time position, that the maintenance men will get a raise. Well, from looking at the agenda, didn't say anything about our gentleman getting a raise, that the money that you guys were going to be saving was going to go to the jail. I am not happy about that. So I don't know what else I can do but to support my maintenance crew and getting them a raise. And I don't think it should be a stipend, because if they do a stipend, they're going to lose probably 30 to 40% of it. So it needs to be like added into their pay, maybe like we had agreed years and years and years ago with Linda Loomis getting an extra $100 in her paycheck. That would for her IT maintenance and her IT department. We ended up not doing that, so I don't know if we can give the guys an extra $100 in their paycheck. I don't know if you guys can figure that out. The union would be okay with that. I don't think it should be a stipend if that's what you guys decide. I guess I'm turning it back over to you guys, and I may speak up in a few minutes.
Bruce, or would you or Julie like to address that, please?
Well, all I can say is that this position, when it was filled several years ago, was made clear that this position would be eliminated when the Cobb building was finished. And I brought up, I don't know, a year ago, something like that, when the Cobb building was finished, that we needed to get rid of that maintenance position because it was no longer needed, because the need for it, Randy said, was because all the extra work that was involved with Cobb. Well, in the discussions, it was agreed that we would leave that position filled because now there was work being done on the courthouse. And so this person who filled this position resigned, and knowing that the courthouse was going to be done at the end of this year, the thought was is that we'll make it a part-time position for the rest of this year. We might get some interest from people who are retired and so on, because at the end of this year, that maintenance position is going away anyway, because the courthouse will be done and there'll be no need for it, which was expressed back when it was originally filled. Now, you said something about the money that's going to be saved would go towards wages and go towards the jail. I'm not aware of any discussion that said any of those things. Now, maybe I was outside the loop, which is fine, but I'm not aware of anything in that regard. This was strictly, from my point of view, a point of reducing this back to half-time, recognizing that next year's budget was going to be gone completely anyway.
So.
Okay, may I?
Yeah, just a minute. Leanne, just a second, please. Just for clarity, Jody just showed me in the minutes from March 10th that as part of the motion that was approved to allow Randy to hire, that the monies would go, the extra monies would go to jail repairs.
Correct.
Let me read this out of the minutes, just for clarity. It says that Commissioner Caswell moved to allow Mr. Finley to hire a part-time maintenance person for 28 hours per week through the end of 2020, and any money that is saved will be credited to jail for repairs. Seconded by Commissioner Carlin. Vote was 4 yes, 1 no, with Commissioner Games being the 1 no vote. So that's what's in our minutes from March 10th.
Okay, so having read that and said that, you have further proof of why I'm not running for office again.
That was not the intention of reading that.
Now, if I could
Yes, Leanne,
address,
please go ahead.
okay. This position was a full-time position since I don't know how long. I do believe it was held by Jody Hartman. We had 2 full-time gentlemen, well, actually 3. We had Earl, which is the HVAC gentleman. We had Jody Hartman, and we had Bradley Draw. So that gave us 3 maintenance guys, with Earl only doing HVAC stuff. So that left the other 2 gentlemen to do the other job for the county. Now you have Earl and you have Mark Kyrie, and you do not have that 3rd person to help out as a full-time position. I cannot see getting rid of that position because you have, I think, 17 facilities that need to be repaired or need maintenance done to them. And you got one guy like Mark on that job for how long? For a couple of weeks. Who is going to do the other jobs?
Mark, can we let Randy, I think Randy's on. Can we let Randy speak to that? We do have 3 full-time maintenance people still.
Correct. But you're going to take that full-time person that they're trying to hire, a part-time person. You have right now, you have Earl, you have Mark Shirey, and you have John Finley. So you have those 3 people, but before you had Earl, John, Brad, and Jody Hartman. Sorry. You had 4 guys. Now you're taking it down to you're taking it down to 3.5 people. I can tell you that, maintenance, they they need that extra person, because if you're going to, as a full-time position, you're going to rush them into doing the work because they've got other jobs to go and do. It's going to be, excuse my punch, it's going to be half-assed done, and it's not going to get done right because you're going to rush them because they've got other jobs. You cannot, hold on, you cannot hire a person to mow yards according to the contract.
Ruth, was that you that wanted to speak?
Yeah, I have a question. If we pass this on March 10th, then why are we doing it again today?
It's tracking, for tracking.
First of all, it's for tracking purposes that the resolution, because it was passed via motion, so then the resolution came before us for tracking purposes. We pulled it because there was the request for further discussion.
We've already passed this. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Technically, you are correct.
We've already passed it, and I don't think it's in order to bring it back up and be discussing it again. It's already been passed.
Well, I'll just comment that the only reason I voted no, okay, Leanne, just if you can hear me, I voted no on this because I think the position should remain full-time. However, I was defeated on the motion. We did this at the last meeting. The only reason I thought it might be up for further discussion was if it was in fact in violation of the union contract.
Correct.
Julie can't bring it
But
back.
we had an agreement that if it went part-time, that extra money that was being saved by not hiring a full-time position would go to our maintenance group, not to jail repair.
There is so much feedback right now that I couldn't hear anything that Leanne just said. There's a lot of feedback.
Getting it out too.
Leanne, repeat what she just said.
They said our agreement was that the part-time person could, or we would be okay with somebody going part-time only if that money that you guys were saving was going to go to the maintenance guy, not to jail repair.
Okay, so I believe what Leanne is stating is that the union would only agree for the position to go from full to part-time if the money saved went to increase the other maintenance departments.
Wages.
Is that correct?
Correct.
What we passed is not agreeable to the union unless what Leanne just said, that the money goes to the maintenance instead of to the jail. Is that correct?
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, if I may say something.
Go ahead, Namo.
Now, as I recall, the resolution that was passed was March 10th. And at that period of time, we had a maintenance personnel who was supposedly for full-time, I believe, had left us.
Correct.
When we decided to pursue with whatever minimum funds we have, we also were talking and we discussed at length as it relates with what the jail services included as it relates with the maintenance. And I recall that we had Sheriff come up and he talked about his needs, and specifically in lieu of all of that, we decided, keeping our budget in mind, that resolution was passed for 28 hours worth of personnel who would be recruited, part-time personnel, and whatever leftover funds were there, that we would use it for repairs and anything else that was in regards with maintenance with the jail services. So this resolution was passed and it's done and dealt with. And in my understanding, it is redundant to bring this up today for further clarification of a resolution that was already looked at, passed, motion approved. And I understand, and don't get me wrong, there is always going to be in need of a full-time. But with the given circumstances, and especially with our economy being affected, the county is not even able to meet or convene in person. Public is not even a part of this meet and convene in person. At this point, I don't see how we're going to be in a position to recruit a full-time when we don't have full staff working in the capacity in the county. I know the jail is operating 24/7. And my question to Randy is, or if Leanne can answer it, that's fine. But I would like Randy to answer this. Has there been a recruit of the personnel that we were looking for 28 hours?
Are you still on?
I am still on it.
No, Randy, right?
Randy?
Can you talk, Randy?
Yeah, I think we've lost Randy. So my only question here, and any of you from the maintenance department, if you can answer this, have we recruited that 28-hour personnel for maintenance yet?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay, so as it relates with that, if we cannot recruit a part-time, we're looking for a full-time, and I think we should table that discussion for some other day, another calendar, so that we can come to some conclusion, because, and I understand the needs, and don't get me wrong, with the maintenance, we're always going to need a full-time, trust me. But with the given circumstances as of now, and with the budget, and we kept that in mind, and last time when we discussed, we passed a resolution in favor of recruiting a part-time personnel. So in my opinion, this discussion would be redundant as it relates to the resolution passed March 10th. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mark, I have a question.
Hold on a minute. Randy just walked in. I'm going to turn so you can see him. And I know there was some questions. Anyone wish to pose the question again? I think it was you, Namu, if you would.
Before Namu says anything, I want to say something, Mark.
Okay, go ahead.
There's so much feedback.
Too much feedback.
Difficult to hear. I can hear Namu pretty clear. She talks loud, but some of the other ones, there's a lot of feedback making it difficult to follow this meeting. I don't know if David knew anything about it or not, or where the feedback is coming from.
Ruth, do you have both your phone and computer on?
No, I have just my phone on.
Okay, because at least here, we're hearing everybody clearly.
Okay.
Very, very rarely do we get any feedback.
Okay. All right.
So,
Okay. Keep
maybe
going.
for the next meeting, you need to try the iPad or something and try something other than your phone.
Okay. All right.
You can get with David in the meantime on that. Okay. Thank you. Did you have a question for Randy?
Yes, so thank you, Randy, for taking time and coming up on this meeting virtually. So with whatever I said, in one of the points that I mentioned was, as it relates with the resolution that was passed March 10th, in regards with recruiting a 28 hours personnel for the maintenance, Has that position been fulfilled yet?
No, it has not. We're in the middle of, no people in the building, so there's no, nothing on that whatsoever.
Okay, thank you, Randy. So that answers the question that I had asked Randy. So to moving forward, like I said, and since Randy is a part of the meeting now with us, I would like to say that we would need to wait for us to get back to be able to meet and convene as full staff operating in the county before we decide to even further consider the possibility of recruiting full-time. Because right now, like I say, and I'm going to repeat what I said earlier in reiterating the resolution that was passed March 10th, this discussion happens to be redundant as it relates with having to bring up a full-time, let alone a part-time personnel when we have not been able to fulfill even that position as of yet. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So I think it's important to note that this topic came up on March 10th. It was passed to approve or to allow Randy to hire a part-time replacement for up to 28 hours. The resolution that we removed from consent agenda was created, much like we've done many times before, for tracking purposes on a motion from that meeting. Had it not been pulled from the consent agenda, we wouldn't even be discussing it, but it was pulled for discussion purposes. It's been pulled, it needs to be re-voted on. Part of what I'm hearing seems to be the issue of the money saved part-time versus full-time, and what happens to those dollars. And that would have to be addressed separately because that is not addressed in this resolution as it's written. But it was in the motion from March 10th, so we could adjust this resolution. So correct. Jody just, I don't know if you heard that, but Jody just said this resolution actually should read as the motion read, and then we could amend it accordingly. So as I read before, the motion was to approve from March 10th, the hiring of a part-time maintenance person, and the money saved would be used for jail purposes. Now, if someone wants to amend this resolution to read that, and then you struck that, we would simply be dealing with, at this time, the motion to hire the part-time person, and the money issue we could bring up at a later date. Does everyone understand where I'm going? Again, please.
Well, I'll move to amend the 033 to state to make it consistent with what we passed before.
Okay, I will support that. Do we need to vote on that change? Okay, we need to vote on that change. Does everyone understand that we're amending 33 to read as the language of March 10th's motion? Okay.
Mark, I'm not clear. I'm not clear on, Leanne is saying that directing the funds that we're saving, the only reason this is being talked about is because Leanne is saying that directing the money that we're saving, not toward wages in the maintenance department, but toward repairs at the jail is against the union. It's in violation of the union contract. It's the only reason we're even having a discussion about this.
Correct. So the resolution needs to read, as Bruce and I just moved and supported, the same as the March 10th, that's got the jail language in there. Then we can come back and strike that language if that's the wishes of the board. Simply say we're going to hire the part-time person.
Oh my God.
And then we can address the money issue at a later point in time, since there has been discussion that we should address that as a separate issue.
Well, I think we're out of order. First of all, when we pass a motion and follow it up with a resolution at a following meeting, there shouldn't be any discussion. It shouldn't be allowed to be pulled down. We've already done it. But the reason we're discussing this is because it's in violation possibly of the union contract, and I think it should be tabled probably. So we can do some more investigation.
I don't think it should be tabled. I agree with what Julie is saying. I think Julie's right on this, but I don't think it should be tabled. It needs to be solved. I mean, we need to resolve it. And I think the issue is.
Oh my Lord.
Who's having a problem?
Someone from the public who's not supposed to have their mic on right now. If you're from the public, you have to have your mic muted.
The issue is that we passed something, and now Leanne is bringing up that what we passed is in violation of the union contract. So all we need to do is fix it. And I think it needs to be fixed today. It doesn't need to simmer and go on. That's what we're meeting for, is to take care of things. What Leanne suggested is going
Couple people together and figure out.
staff instead of
Amend it and then amend it and then amend it. So I'm saying.
Okay, to kind of help put a conclusion to this so that we can move on. We've got a motion on the floor right now to amend it to read the same as the language from March 10th. If we pass that, then I would like for Julie and Ruth to get together and bring back a resolve, not necessarily a resolution, but a resolve to the money issue part of it. And we can take it up at the next meeting. There's no sense in amending this thing so that it becomes so convoluted that it's hard to track. If we pass this, we can come back with another resolution or a motion that addresses the money issue. Does that make sense?
So we would reconsider it at the next meeting.
If that's the board, or we can create a new motion that would basically strike the money language out of this, still authorizing him to hire, strike the language of the money and take the money up as a separate issue.
Mr. Chairman, if I may say something?
Go ahead.
All right. Now, going back to the resolution that did mention about the money part, and as I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, Leanne, if you're still there, that the money, as it relates with how what we're going to do with the money, which was a part of that resolution, if that is in violation of the contract or of the union, then obviously that resolution that needs to be amended, and it needs to be amended today in regards to further pursue with the 2033 resolution that we have at hand, which simply says to go ahead and approve the facility director to hire a part-time maintenance person. So.
Okay, just a minute. Jody, go ahead.
Mr. Carlin, here's the problem. When you guys make floor motions like you did on March 10th, those are horrible tracking mechanisms. You always come back with a resolution that is supposed to be identical to the motion. With everything that's been happening and people working rotating shifts in our office, this slipped through without the additional wording on it. We need to correct this resolution to correctly reflect the motion from March 10th. Then, if you guys want to get together and do whatever it is you do and figure out if you want to amend what is done with the money, then you can do that at a different meeting. But for right now, and this came up because Leanne was unable to be in attendance at the March 10th meeting, and that motion may have been different to begin with. So what I need for my purposes is this resolution that's presented right now to be amended to correctly reflect exact wording in the March 10th motion. And then what you guys do from there as a separate motion or separate resolution or whatever, you can come back later to do. Okay? Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yes, all right. Thank you, Jody, for that comment. And I think that really does explain. And so with that explanation, I would like to just go ahead and agree with the fact that the motion, if it has already been moved and approved, that it would reflect the motion of March 10th, and it needs to be amended. So that is just perfectly fine, and I am in agreement with that. Thank you.
So also, Mark, just for clarification, that motion passed 4-1. I voted no, so I'm going to vote no again.
That's understandable, and
I want you to understand why I'm voting no.
so the first thing we need to do is to vote on the amendment to change the language to read identical to March 10th, which Bruce moved and I supported, to add in the language about the money saved. And Jody will get the language straightened out. But I read that earlier. And so basically it would read that recommend the approval of Hillsdale County Facilities Director to hire a part-time maintenance person, and the money saved would go for repairs at the jail, I believe, is the way that read.
That's right.
So that's the amendment. We need to vote on the amendment first to add that language in so it matches up for tracking purposes as Jody indicated. So with that said, Jody will run a roll call on that amendment, please.
Commissioner Carlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Gaines,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Caswell.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll vote on the resolution as it's been amended, right? Because all we did was vote on the amendment.
Right.
So now we have to vote on it as it is amended, and so now it 33 as amended.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Gaines,
No.
Julie?
Commissioner,
No.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Caswell,
Yes.
Commissioner Carolyn.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, the outcome is 4-1, which is the same as what was March 10th's vote.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Bruce.
if we're going to take a look and where he's going to go, then that's the responsibility of the Finance Committee. Now, I would say this.
Yes.
Looking back on all of this, it was ludicrous to put in the original motion, and it's my fault, nobody else's, to agree to this money goes to the jail. The money goes back into the budget. We can decide down the road what we want to do with it, with a recommendation from the Finance Committee. But the other piece of this is that we've now established a precedent, which in my opinion is a very bad precedent. When we eliminated the janitor's position, which should have been eliminated a year ago, that money was redistributed into raises. I don't believe it's wise at all on the part of the commissioners to start handing out raises to certain people and not to other people. If we're going to have a union, then the raises should go across the board to everybody. Now we're coming back after having established that precedent, and I went along with it, and I was wrong. We're now coming back and we're establishing the precedent again. We can't do this nitpicking back and forth and taking one group, giving them a raise, and then taking another group and giving them a raise and so on. That has to stop. That's all part of the annual budget that's put together. If there's raises that are indicated, if there's raises that are indicated that are needed, then that should be allowed through the budget that's presented to us at the end of the year to approve for the next year. The final thing I'll say is this. I've said this repeatedly, and I'm sure you're all sick of hearing it, but you can either hire people or you can fix things. We do not have enough money to do both. And when you fix things, it's one-time money. When you hire people or you increase wages, it's there going forward. We have a significant issue with our pension. We have a significant issue with our heating system in the courthouse that need to be addressed. We have significant issues out at the jail because the jail is so old. Now, if this money were to, if we end up at the end of the day deciding to put it into the jail, understand it's one-time money. It fixes things, and once those things are fixed, they don't need to be refixed for a long time. If we make the decision to put this money into wages, then that money in terms of being able to have flexibility with it in the future will be gone, because once those wages are increased, they stay increased. So that's really the issue that we're looking at moving forward. But I think it's very bad policy for us to cut a janitor's position or reduce this position back to halftime and then in that resolution designate what that money is going to be done with. I think we need to stop doing that. I think it's very bad precedent. That's the responsibility of the Finance Committee, be Ruth and whoever next year. Right now it's Ruth and me. That's where those decisions should be made and brought to the committee, and then we can discuss it at that point. Thank you.
So with that said, Bruce, do you and Ruth wish to further discuss this and then bring back any comments at the next meeting?
I think that's the function of the two of us that are on that committee. Yes, that Finance Committee.
That would be most appreciated, and I think that would help resolve or at least answer some of Leanne's concerns.
Okay.
So we'll look forward to that discussion at the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay,
Can I move on now?
please.
This is also a motion that was brought forward at the March 10th meeting and passed. So I'm just remaking it now as an actual follow-up resolution. 20034. The Honorable Board of Commissioners, we recommend approval of the Hillsdale County Facilities Director to look into the hiring of an architect for the HVAC system at the courthouse. Respectfully submitted, Julie Games, Chair.
I second that.
Thank you.
Okay, Ruth, you asked for this to be pulled because you had a question, so go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just questioning the wording of this resolution. It says, look into the hiring of an architect. To me, that kind of, that terminology, what does it mean to look into? Is there going to be a cost? Is there going to be any money involved in this? Or what does look into mean? I mean, I kind of know what it means. Resolution, and I'm sure that's clear as a record of the resolution. What is?
I know we're all struggling a little bit because we're doing this online and didn't have the meeting 2 weeks ago. And a lot of this goes back to the March 10th meeting. But here again, I will read from the minutes. There was discussion regarding the HVAC system in the courthouse. Mr. Finley stated that it would be best to hire an architect and he needs permission to proceed. Commissioner Caswell moved to allow Mr. Finley to proceed with hiring an architect for the HVAC project at the courthouse. Seconded by Commissioner Brown. The vote was unanimous.
Okay,
That's what transpired on the 10th of March.
so that motion stated that we were allowing Randy to hire an architect.
Correct.
So this goes back again to the same issue. Now, we don't need a 20-034 to tell him to look into the hiring because we already passed a motion saying for him to hire one.
So we have done motions for years, Ruth, and then they are followed up with a resolution that 99% of the time is put in consent agenda. The resolution is done for tracking purposes so that they're easy to find. So that's the whole purpose of this resolution.
But I understand all that, Mark, respectfully speaking, but this is different. This is worded differently, which is what I just got through saying. This says to look into the hiring.
Would you like to move to strike the language to look into?
I'm good with the motion that we passed at the March 10th meeting. I'm fine with that. And if that was under consent, and I understand that I'm the one that pulled it down. But the reason why I pulled it down is because it's different language, different wording than what the motion was passed. So if Jody can just correct that so that it lines up with what the motion actually was, then I'm fine.
I was going to strike, look into and put to proceed with.
Correct.
I can do that. You are perfectly right. That's how it should read.
That's fine.
Jody concurs. That's, when going back to the minutes and looking at this, we can make that 3 or 4 word change.
No problem.
Okay, good point. Well taken.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this, having listened to what you said and everything, I don't think we want to put Randy in a position of hiring the person. That should be the responsibility of the commissioners. He gets the bids, which I understand he's got 2 right now, one from Mendy and one from county. And he brings the bids back with a recommendation to the commissioners. I don't want to put him in the position of hiring somebody, because if it doesn't go well, then he gets the blame, and he shouldn't get the blame. It should be us.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Now, we don't need.
I see. Yeah. So you're proposing an amendment to 20-034?
Well, I'm saying, I know we want to amend it to get Commissioner Brown okay with being consistent with March 10th. But if I heard correctly, that says that Randy does the hiring, and I don't think we should put Randy in that position. Randy will get the 3 get bids and bring them back to us. We make the selection as to who we're gonna hire.
So we can move to amend the motion just the way Bruce just said, Mark. Amend the motion so that Randy gets the bids and then the commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead.
In my opinion, when you have a language such as to look into, I think it would be quite right to put in to look into bids for hiring of an architect for the HVAC system at the courthouse. That's how it should read, because obviously the bids need to come to Randy and the final say is with the commissioners. So I think I would like to amend the motion by saying we recommend the approval for the Hillsdale County Facility Director to look into the bids for hiring of an architect for the HVAC system at the courthouse.
looking at inserting the word
Obtaining bids.
obtaining bids.
That's right.
I'm not gonna go for anything that says look into.
Smart man, knows what he's supposed to do.
Randy just walked in and he said he agrees with Commissioner Caswell's comment that he can, take care of all the legwork and then bring it before us and then we make the decision.
So Randy, the resolution should state that Randy is directed to obtain bids for the architectural work on the HVAC system at the courthouse. That's what it should say.
Yeah, and I agree. That is a good statement to make because he will look into the bids.
Can't we add to that, Julie? That was good, Julie. Can't we just add to that?
Why can't we correct this one to be as it is, approve it? Because it's just a follow-up, and then you can make another motion to do whatever you want, and we'll have another follow-up resolution to that.
I think it should be all in one resolution together.
Okay. Once again, for tracking purposes, I think what Jody would like to see, and once again, it's for tracking purposes. Let's approve this one with the clerical change that we've already discussed. And then we will have a motion that will be basically tie-barred to this one, which of course, for tracking purposes, will be followed up with a resolution in consent at the next meeting, but specifying that Randy will bring the bids before us and that the Board of Commissioners will approve, the hiring.
I agree with that, Mr. Chairman. That sounds good.
Okay. Do you want to say anything?
I will bring forth the recommendation for the one for the hire. I'll narrow it down, but.
Okay. Okay, hold on a minute. Okay, let's vote on 2034 and then I'll entertain a new motion. And then I want Randy to comment. Well, actually, I want him to comment before we create the new motion. So all those in favor of 20034?
Commissioner
Jody?
Gaines,
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Caswell,
Yes.
Commissioner Carlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, bear with us a minute. Randy, if you would, please.
What I expect to do is to gather all the bids and narrow them down for you and then bring them in front of you. One or two that I think is the best way to go, and then you guys make your decision what you want to do.
I think, Randy, that's a very good recommendation.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I think if we direct Randy, I think under our policy that we have now, I think we have to get for a project like this, 3 bids, try to get 3 bids. I think
5 more contacted, and I've got appointments to share the building next week.
Okay, what I'm going to say here is that I think everyone who bids, everyone who responds to Randy, he should put together a sheet and bring back to us so that it's all out, everybody. Then he makes his recommendation of the 1 or 2, like he said. But I think we need to see everything that comes in. And then Randy makes a recommendation based on his expertise. And then we go from there. But I think we need to see everything that's put out that comes into us.
Not that I'll understand it.
That works for me.
Okay. So with that all said, we need a motion to provide direction on that.
I'm going to make a motion that Randy Finley, the facilities director, clean bids for the HVAC system at the courthouse.
I second that.
Wait. Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Chairman.
Go ahead.
When are these bids to be back? Now, we were told, or we discussed this early on, the courthouse is an ongoing project. Randy's people are working. And that we needed to get moving on this thing because we were told that if we waited much longer, it's going to be well into the summer, if not the end of the summer, before this new heating system could be put in. We're now a month later and we've done nothing. So I'd like to see some kind of a time limit put on these bids so that he can report back to our next meeting.
Well, I don't think the next meeting's going to work. And as for any construction on the building, that's pretty much come to a standstill. The stay home, stay safe order has not only limited us there as far as work, but it's also limited us from getting any materials, because a lot of the places that we were getting materials from have either closed or stymied their activity considerably. So,
And there's also a limit on getting bids right now because, you know, people are not full staffed. Those offices either that we need to get bids from. So I would like to take Randy's recommendation at this point, not knowing if the stay-at-home order is going to be extended, as to what the time frame should be.
Well, Randy, we've got 2 bids right now. Is that correct?
yes, that's correct.
And one of them's from Kalamazoo and one of them from a local. So we have 2 bids already. So the question becomes, do we want more bids on top of that? Or do we want to take 2 weeks and think it through and decide whether or not we want one of the 2 bids that we already have?
For the amount of money we're talking about, if we stay with policy, Bruce, we need a minimum of 3.
Right?
So I think
More bids.
we need at least 1 or 2 more for sure. And then with this stay home, stay safe through the end of the month, I think the earliest we can possibly take this up and hopefully make a decision on it would be the May 12th meeting. That's longer than all of us would like, but like I said, everything has come to a stall. So we're not any different than we would have been if we'd decided today, if we were still open and up and running.
Okay, so then I would be willing to add to my motion the date of that Randy would have not only obtain bids, but have them back to us by the May 12th meeting.
Randy indicates that'll work. We'll have this as an agenda item on May 12th. And I believe, Jody, what do you have for motions?
I put that you're going to direct the facilities director to collect bids for the HVAC system at the courthouse and bring the bids before the board on May 12th, 2020.
Did everyone hear that?
Yes, I heard it.
Okay.
And I don't have a second. I only have a motion.
I'll support it.
I seconded it.
Okay, Namo supports it. We can keep this ball rolling. Any further discussion? I think we've beat it up pretty good.
Yes.
Jody, go.
Commissioner Wiley,
Yes.
Commissioner Caswell,
Yes.
Commissioner Carlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Brown,
Yes.
Commissioner Gaines.
Yes.
Passes 5-0. Thank you all for your patience and diligence.
Okay, continuing on.
Please.
I have under discussion points, I'm looking for somebody for the Headwaters Recreational Authority Committee. The appointment has to be somebody not working for the Township of Fayette or the City of Hillsdale or Jonesville. But in basically probably mine or Ruth's district. So we will continue to work on finding a person for that committee. We're looking to fill it as soon as possible. So anybody interested in that, please contact myself or Commissioner Brown and let us know that you'd like to work on that. most of my meetings have been canceled, obviously, since the last meeting. But Ruth and I did attend a Michigan Works board meeting along with the the workforce board. It was a joint meeting. And that went well. I also attended the TIFA meeting in Litchfield. They're working on a lot of things in the Moscow Township meeting. Some of the other areas I know, the EDP is working really hard right now. They've changed direction and are working really hard right now to help people obtain SBA loans that are in need of that. So if there are business people out there in the community listening and you need help with those loans, you can also contact the EDP for help. I'm making sure that the Ambulance Association, their second quarterly payment of their millage funds is due tomorrow. Making sure that everybody's getting in their reports and so on and so forth, so those payments can be made. I guess that's all I have for my report at this time.
Any questions for Julie? I just have a comment, Julie, since it's normally under your report. I talked to John Sanders this morning. And just for everyone's information, he informed me that they are basically on lockdown as well. He is working and two of their foremans are running around checking roads. They do have all their drivers on regular hour call-in. They have a policy that if a driver comes in because the foreman said road so-and-so needs scraping because it's, you know, washed out or whatever, that driver comes in, goes straight from his vehicle to his truck, does his job, comes back, gets, you know, so limiting exposure. And they're going to continue operating that way till the end of the month, which they hope to resume normal activities in May. So that's what he told me this morning, Julie.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, moving along. That brings us up to Bruce.
Resolution 2030, the Honorable Board of Commissioners. We recommend amending the Veterans Counselor 2020 budget to equate to the 2017 budget year as to maintain eligibility for the County Veteran Services Service Fund grant. The amendment will be an increase of $16,383, respectfully submitted, says Mark Wiley, but I will move to adopt this resolution.
Support. This is Ruth.
Okay, the purpose of this resolution is back in 2017, when Renee took over the directorship of the Veterans Organization, she indicated that she did not need an assistant. And so we gave her a little bit of a raise and eliminated the assistant's position. Well, since that time, Renee had found out that she really could use somebody in there part-time. Now, we went originally with the person who was hired in the drainage office, and they were kind of splitting the two offices, and that helped some, but still wasn't sufficient, because when Renee went off on conferences, which she has to do every year to stay certified, the office was completely closed down and veterans couldn't get any help. So through a grant that the Veteran Service Organization got, they were able to hire a part-time person, Dolly, who's working in there now. Well, this year they reapplied for that grant, and the state, for whatever reason, went back and looked, and the state will not give you this grant if you've cut your funding over the last 3 or 4 years to the VA office. And they went back and found that our budget in 2017, I guess, was more than it is now because of the change we made after Renee took over. So this money is being put back in to bring the budget now equivalent to where it was back in 17, so that, quote unquote, we haven't cut the Veterans Fund. Doing this will then allow them to get the grant, which will pay for the Dolly's position that's in the office there. And Renee has indicated to me that none of this money will get spent. It'll be turned back in at the end of the year to the county But it's basically covering our bases with the state so we can continue to get the grant.
Is there any questions on the resolution?
Well, Commissioner Caswell, I have a quick question. This is Nemo. And so my question is, with the funds that we would receive by the end of the year back into the account, do you have a dollar?
Can't understand a thing you said.
Okay.
Somebody else was talking. Mark, what'd she say?
Okay, I'll
Okay,
just
so-
repeat that. Can you hear me okay now?
You go in and out.
All right, let me relay. She was asking, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Carlin, you were asking what the amount of the money of the grant that's coming in?
That is correct.
Thank you. That was her question, Bruce, is how much money is coming in from the grant?
I'm not certain, but I think it's around 50,000, 40 or 50,000.
Okay, thank you.
I don't recall exactly either, Namu, but
But I do know,
somewhere in that ballpark.
I do know that a chunk of that grant, Renee wants to put out in front of the Cobb building a veterans, kind of like a little memorial and landscape it and so on and so forth, which she can legally do with some of that money. So not all of that 50,000 will go to pay for Dolly. Part of it will be used for some other things.
That is correct. Any further?
Thank you.
Hearing none, we will vote on 2030.
Mr. Caswell?
Yes.
Mr. Carolyn? Mr. Carolyn?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Commissioner Gaines?
Yes.
Commissioner Wiley?
Yes. Please continue, Bruce.
Resolution 20031 to the Honorable Board of Commissioners, we recommend the approval of the attached resolution to borrow against anticipated delinquent 2019 real property taxes. This resolution is not to exceed $3.5 million. Respectfully submitted, Bruce Caswell. I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Support.
I second that.
I supported it, Nemu.
Okay.
We got it. Thank you. Discussion?
So we do this every year, everybody, as I'm sure you remember, and it's basically borrowing money for delinquent taxes so that monies can be allocated out to all the various units of government on time, so they can count on having that money. And then as the money's collected late, these tax notes are repaid. They're repaid every year. And Stephanie gave this to us, and she feels confident that this is the amount that she'll need not to exceed $3.5 million.
Any questions? Pretty standard procedure. We do this pretty much every year. The dollar number changes and that's about it. So, with that said, vote.
Commissioner Carlin?
Yes.
Commissioner Brown?
Yes.
Gaines?
Yes.
Wiley?
Yes,
Commissioner Caswell?
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you. And both 30 and 31 passed 5-0. Thank you. Continue, Bruce.
Well, I got two other things here. The Prevention Works program, which is the drug, the outfit here in the county that handles the drug money, the PA2 money. They put together an action plan, and basically it covers three areas. One is kids drinking too much and too early. The second is the use of marijuana. And third is a reduction in heroin usage. And the heroin usage in the county primarily comes because people get hooked on opioids and then they get their prescriptions cut off. So they turn to heroin because it's a cheap substitute until they run into fentanyl in their heroin, which ends up killing them. So these three areas they're given specific ways that they want to attack each of these problems. And probably the biggest problem we have going on right now is marijuana, because kids have decided, because we're legalizing it and so on and so forth, it's dangerous. And marijuana can really screw up a developing mind, a kid's mind. And so they want to put a lot of emphasis towards trying to stop that. The other thing I want to mention is that the health department has done yeoman work in getting personal protection equipment into the county. And I think I want to congratulate Rebecca, and I want all of you to know how much effort that they've put into getting that stuff in here to the hospital, to the nursing home, the medical care facility, and they've pulled all kinds of strings and everything else. So they've really done well by us, and I want you to be aware of that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that, Bruce. Any questions or comments for Bruce? Okay, Ruth, you're up.
Okay. On the email this morning, I sent all of you an email from Michigan Work, which Julie and I are on that board together. It's a two-person board. And all it is just the impact of COVID-19 in the Michigan Work Southeast region. And it just gives you some pie charts, graphs, and stuff like that to show you how many people have applied. And it's just some. The other email I sent you this morning was about the census. And with all this COVID-19, you know, the census has kind of gotten shoved under the rug because people have bigger issues to deal with right now. The thing that we want to remember about the census is that it's for 10 years. Now, this census is going to get delayed. I know that for a fact. They're on a later timeline because of the COVID-19. So that we're not able to go out at our meetings like we usually do. The only way you can really do it is online. And I sent you that kind of just to keep that in your mind, because with everything else going on, you can shove to the background. Suicide prevention. We're keeping our support group going right now on a daily basis. Obviously, none of us can meet, but every day with our depression support group and mental health tips, things like that to help with isolation at this time and to keep the group going and together during this time. As far as prevention is concerned, the Jackson Coalition met by Skype, and our coalition here in Hillsdale is going to do something similar this month. I don't know if it'll be Skype or what it'll be, but the point is, we are continuing to work during this time. We're not just laying back and not doing anything. I feel as this fall, COVID-19, you know, becomes going to be a big financial impact, and people are going to have problems. Suicide in the city of Hillsdale last week. And those are just the ones that I'm aware of. It's no time for us to be not doing anything. We have to be diligent and continue our work, and that's what we're doing. And unless there's any questions, that's my report. The only other thing I've been working on is LifeWay. LifeWay is continuing on that. Several of us are on that, and we meet all the time on the computer and have all of our meetings regular. So I'm working on it unless anybody has any questions.
Any questions for Ruth? Okay, Namu, that brings us up to you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we've had a busy month, even though we've been conducting several conference meetings with all the designated committees that I'm involved with virtually. So I had the opportunity to participate in um, the White House COVID-19 briefing that took place about 6 days back, and had the opportunity to understand as to how we're doing as it relates with any direction with aid from the state, tribal, local governments, and how they're allocated. And I did do a little bit of a summary on all of that, and I sent it to every one of you. So as it relates with that, a couple of issues were talked about. I had an opportunity to hear President Donald Trump as well to chime in and talk a little bit about how we're moving forward and where we are at with gradually at some point to convene in person and to open up the counties, the state, and so on. A couple of things that were talked about was emergency relief bill. And a couple of other meetings that I had was with the Community Action Agency, virtually again via Skype. And they had their recent audit, and seems like they're doing all right. March 18th meeting was held again virtually with the Community Action Agency, with the Community Development and Evaluation Committee. We met through Skype, and a couple of things were discussed. A couple of things were asked as it relates with the Children and Adult Care Food Program. And Community Action Agency has been updating their communities, even though they're fully staffed and working in person, but they're available through other means, telephonically or on call, and there's always one staff within the localities. Other things were talked about as it relates with children's programs and their self-assessment. Some more programs were talked about with technical assessment reports, with the functions and actions of their agency during this time when everything is shut down during the COVID-19, and overall how they're doing and moving forward, helping the communities and how they're reaching them. Some more things were talked about as it relates with again the transportation programs that the CAA provides. They did talk a little bit as it relates with how they're handling donation goods and all the emergency responses that they're handling within the committee. I think the CEO is doing a very good job, not only with the staff, but keeping us as board members very abreast. So to bring that back to you, that all of the programs and the involvement with the donations and how they're moving forward with sanitation and just with a whole bunch of answering with the questions as relates with the programs that are involved. The normal day-to-day activity that CAA would do, they're doing it via telephonically or they're online, but somebody's always available for the community as such. So that's the Community Action Agency, participated online with them. I also did participate online with the medical examiner, and the reports and invoices are sent to you. At this point, they're still moving forward with the transition to having their morgue transferred to county. Until now, they're still pursuing with the ProMedica and Bixby in Adrian. There, at this moment, there is no other information as it relates with any increase with costs. So that topic has been handled very carefully. We've already expressed from the Hillsdale County that we are not going to anticipate, or we're hoping that there is no extra cost as it relates with whatever has been talked about with this whole transition of the morgue. And FYI, Jill, who happens to be the head of the Jackson County morgue, she is going to retire. So just an FYI there. The activity report for the sheriff department was already sent to you, so you have it in your packet. The jail staff has been full stop, so for now working. I haven't received any other information from the city. We had law enforcement calls. Emergency calls were 456. Non-emergency calls were 371. Total to 827. Jail staffs 5,862 inmate meals during the whole month. No additional sheriff, other than to reiterate to you the earlier conversation we had as it relates with the resolution. And this is just something that I wanted to put out. Time staff that we were going to have maintenance and the resolution that had the extra verbiage that the monies that were going to be left over to be just given for the maintenance of the jail services. So as it relates with that, I'm hoping that we can come back and also bring it back to the Board of Commissioners that what we had passed in the resolution previously on March 10th about sanctioning some monies out when we were only going to recruit through for the maintenance of 28 hours personnel. I think it's critical that we bring it back to the table as to the monies that we decided to put aside for maintenance of the jail is still going to be talked about, because that was specifically for jail gate, if you recall. And I don't want to go at length on that, about the amount that was specifically for the jail gate, if you recall, commissioners. But at some point, we will have to think about that as well, as to the monies allocated specifically for maintenance. So let's not forget about that. Moving forward, we've covered the medical examiner investigation. The invoices, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. And the last important statement that I wanted to make was, as it relates to our county, in my opinion, we understand they're following the protocols and the executive order that's come from the governor. But in my eyes, that we need to put our best foot forward and at least to partially open up and start the local businesses, because the executive orders that we've received so far from the governor, we have been in compliance. But I think it's important as government officials, we need to be able to figure out a future step for our county to at least step up in providing some more information to at least follow the CDC guidelines, keep the 6 feet distancing and social distancing, all those parameters. But at the same time, we need to open up local businesses and still be respectful of the fact that we are dealing with COVID-19. Because my only concern as a commissioner representing District 5, and as you know, the concern will always be for my constituents to enable for them to be locally more strong with their economy. And at this point, we're not opened. And this is going to affect us terribly. So I strongly suggest that we open up at least some with limited hours, but we need to enable to start some of our local businesses. And in regards with the quarantine, I think this is really strongly advisable that the sick remain quarantined, not the healthy. Although we can follow the protocols, the CDC guidelines, but as commissioners, I think our duties towards our county is to open up at least the local businesses, keeping limited hours and keeping the CDC guidelines still, But at the same time, moving forward to understand that we cannot shut down completely or else we're heading for a Great Depression. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question, please.
Yes, Commissioner Brown.
You said something about somebody was retiring and it cut out. Who's retiring?
I'm sorry, it's very blurry. Could you repeat that again, Commissioner Brown?
You said something about that somebody was retiring. Who's retiring?
Oh, yes, as regards with retiring, I hope you can all hear me clearly. I know there's a lot of static, but I like to just keep it as loud and clear.
Put it down to what you want to know.
So in regards with the Jackson County, where we are going to transition with regards with the medical examiner office with the morgue, Jill, forget her last name, is the head of the Jackson County morgue. She is going to retire in probably just a month or two. So we are going to look at a different personnel very soon.
Thank you very much. Good job, Nemo.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown, for that question.
Any other questions for Nemo? Okay, thank you. All right, if you'll notice under my report, there's a note, and basically what it is the minutes of the March 24th meeting were not there for your review and correction because that meeting was canceled. So that's what that note's about. Just for tracking purposes primarily, helps us keep track of the fact that that meeting was canceled. The next item that I see printed here is the discussion. The question has come, and I wanted to ask the board about this rather than me make a decision on it solely. Can a county employee have a political sign, advertisement, or a campaign sign on their vehicle, in their vehicle window, and park in the county parking lot? Do we want to allow that, or do we want to prohibit that is the question. So I'm open to feedback from the commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, if I may say something on.
Please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that question. And I did see it on the agenda. This particular question, now as county commissioners, I don't see how it is even possible for us to restrict anybody to do anything in their personal property. It's like, for example, I'll give you this example, that I drive my vehicle, I can either have the vehicle pink in color or shocking red, anything. What does it bother the pedestrians, or what does it bother anybody on the road? Because it happens to be my property, my own personal vehicle, so I can paint it red or blue, green, any color. I don't see anybody making that choice for me that because I put something on my property or in my personal vehicle that would allow anybody to give them the ability to say that that should or should not be done. Now, as it relates with this question, I understand it seems like a political sign, and I don't know what exactly you're referring to, but in my understanding, it's not, it's nothing to do with the county vehicle. It's their personal vehicle, so I don't see as to us, not only as government officials or even as public, for us to say he or she can have that or not. So that's just my thought, and I'm not quite sure what it is being referred to or what political sign. I have no clue. But if it's a personal property, then we don't have the jurisdiction to say they can or cannot. Just a thought.
Well, just for clarity, the real question is, and you are correct, it is a person's personal property. But if that vehicle is parked on county property in the county parking lot, that is the real question. Do we want them to be allowed to display a political sign on their vehicle or in their vehicle when it's parked on county property? That's really the crux of the question.
I'm going to weigh in, and yes, I still agree with Nemu. I don't care if it's on the county property or not. As long as it's, you know, in or on their vehicle, I don't see how we can tell them that they can't do that if they wish to do that.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ruth.
I didn't have any comments.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
I'm listening.
Bruce, you still with us, Bruce?
I think we
Yes, I
just
am.
lost him. Oh, he's
Yes,
right
I
there.
am. You know, somebody, a citizen came to me about this, I don't know, quite a while back, and my initial reaction was that if it was on county property, probably we shouldn't allow it. But as I thought more about it, I think back to 2010, and I was running for the Senate against Mr. Spade, Doug Spade, and Doug's wife worked for the courts in Lenawee County. And she drove to work every day and put her car, it was a great big huge parking lot outside the courthouse. She put her car right up the very edge of the parking lot and had Doug Spade for state senate on it, both sides, right next to the main highway that went through downtown Adrian. And they allowed it. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, you know, if it's on your personal vehicle, that's fine. If it's on a county vehicle, no. If you want to set a sign out on county land, no. But if it's on your personal vehicle, what the heck? Let them go for it.
Okay. Well, that's why I wanted it as a discussion item, because honestly, I didn't want to touch this one by myself because there are a lot of differing opinions and good comments. So what I'm hearing is that we'll allow employees to display political stickers, signs, or whatever on or in their vehicle if they so desire.
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
another thing to think about, and we brought this up back when we had the letter about nobody wanted Jesus on the courthouse grounds. The courthouse, according to our parks committee and everything, the courthouse is a park.
That is true.
People have to get permission from Randy to put things on the courthouse lawn, you know, be it signs, be it Christmas displays, whatever it might be. But as a park, if somebody brings their vehicle in and sits there and got a sign on it, we wouldn't say anything about that if they were, you know, out at Owens Park or at another county park. We wouldn't say out at Rearing Ponds, we wouldn't say anything about that.
Right.
I think we'd be wise to not say anything about it here, since it is technically a park,
Yep.
as long as it's on their vehicle.
Okay. Sounds good to me. We'll move along. Land of the home, or land of the brave and home of the free. Thank you. Okay. Appointment to Lifeways Board. We still need to make that appointment. I left this on the agenda. We have not done the interviews. There are two candidates. Mary Beth and Karen were going to get me some questions. I know I had asked Julie to help with those interviews. We'll get that done going forward, but it's there again, we can't very well conduct interviews during stay home, stay safe. And Mary Beth and Karen are good with the way we are. And they also told me that Brad will continue to serve until we either reappoint him or appoint a different person. So,
Okay, I thought that was gonna be me and Commissioner Carolyn, Mark.
excuse me?
I thought that was gonna be me and Commissioner Carolyn.
I've talked to all three of you, so I don't, when we get the questions from Mary Beth, I'll circle back to all three of you, and whichever two of you want to do it, I'll be more than happy to let the two of you do it. So. Julie, are you shaking your head no?
Well, I thought that you and I were gonna do that, but no.
I'm going to abstain because one of the candidates is my opponent in the election.
Oh, I see.
So,
I could chair it and I could do it with Ruth or Namrata, whichever one wants to do it.
okay, as soon as I get the questions and as soon as we can do the interviews, I will reach out to the three of you and we'll get that sorted out. So
Okay.
hopefully we can have that done for the May 12th meeting. Okay, the other thing, I've got several things here. Stephanie approached me right before the first Stay at Home, Stay Safe about hiring a replacement. She has lost an individual. I'll keep that on my list of things to do because what I told her is right now, there's no sense in even posting it because we can't do the interviews. But just bear in mind, she is -1 right now. And I told her we would more than likely, I mean, we haven't brought it up to the board yet, but we will have to approve her to replace that person as time and stay home, stay safe permits.
Can you tell who she lost, Mark?
Who did Stephanie lose? Remember?
Julie,
Julie.
to equalization.
Julie went across the building to equalization.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you, thank you.
I knew where she went. I couldn't remember her name. Thank you, Judy. Okay, as you all know, the commissioners know emergency management's been meeting every week during this, and we have updates on the COVID from the health department. And I do get updates daily, which I send out to you. I've been trying to send them every day to everyone. Last night's update was 77 confirmed cases and 9 deaths. Those two additional deaths that were reported last night, unfortunately, were at medical care facility. Greater than 50% of both our active number of cases and our number of deaths, unfortunately, are at medical care. So, and we are the highest rural county, unfortunately. Bruce alluded to before about the health department stepping up and really doing an outstanding job as far as procuring us the needed PPEs. Talked to Becky yesterday and she is getting us 100 more of the N95s through St. Joseph County. And those will be coming to us probably within the next few days. And more than likely, the vast majority of those will be going to medical care. Doug and Terry Esterline and I have had discussions with Region 1. We have gotten some supplies out of Region 1. So we did get some masks. They're not surgical masks. They're kind of a Chinese version of a surgical mask. They're better than nothing. And we did distribute some of those yesterday with the county buildings. So along that line, we had the meeting yesterday. I had the meeting with department and elected. We are trying to continue pretty much as we have been. Matt Word is going to step up a little bit of maintenance and perhaps a little bit of ditch work or drinking work as needed, but abiding by the stay home, stay safe and the best practices. social distancing, et cetera. The courts, of course, are still operating. The clerk's office is operating. We are installing a couple drop boxes here at the Cobb. One will be at the front entrance and one at the rear. Those will be secure boxes. Part of that discussion, Stephanie thought that it would help, especially as far as prohibiting contact between her and her staff with the public, and people could drop off their tax payments, because a lot of people, Stephanie indicated, like to do it in person. So she's encouraging them to use the drop box. As soon as those drop boxes are available, Randy will let Doug or David know, and David will put something on the homepage that the boxes are available and so on. I would say that we urge people to not use cash. And, you know, if you're going to use it to pay your taxes, please use a money order or something that's not so tempting. So, let's see. I think that's about all I have at this time, unless there's a comment or a question. David has been working very hard on these WebEx meetings. I know he's been setting them up for emergency management meetings. He's been helping us. He's got them set up this week for medical care and for DHS. So if anybody deserves a pat on the back, there's a lot of people, but David's been putting in some extra time here. So,
Jody.
But, we'll just all keep plugging along. We'll get through this. So, and if anybody's interested in participating in a rally tomorrow, I guess I should say there is a rally at the state capitol tomorrow, and I don't know the full extent of the details, but I'm sure you could find out if you went online. So, but anyways, that's all I have, unless there's a question. With that, I will move to public comment. Anyone wish to address the board that's on? Oh, you want to update us on that? Okay. I'm going to turn the device so you can see Randy. He's going to give you a quick update on the gate situation.
Well, as you all know, that we had one bid for over $33,000 to refurbish the jail gate. And I had 2 or 3 other companies that were working on it. Unfortunately, they were located in New York and New Jersey. So I've heard nothing from them lately, understandably. I did manage to get a bid for $17,500. I went ahead and ordered it, and it is coming. It's a 12-week shipping date, so it's 12 weeks out. But we did go ahead and we fully plan on having that gate operational as soon as it ships, and we'll get the personnel here to do it.
Yeah, perfect. And could I have an extra ranch too?
Extra factory ranch.
Yes.
All right, somebody's not muted. Okay, any questions for Randy on the gate? Okay, anyone else wish to comment at this time? Additional business, commissioners. Julie, do you have anything?
I guess the only thing I want to reiterate is Ruth did talk about the census. And I just want to reiterate to people especially since a lot of people are home right now. There's only 9 questions on that document. There's many ways to complete it, and it's super important for our county. And right now, at last, figure that I saw, only about 40% of us had completed the census for our county. And last time we didn't complete it, it was 21% didn't complete it, and it cost us over $17 million over 10-year period. So it's very, very important that you complete the census. If you have any questions about it, Ruth is actually sitting on the county committee. I'm happy to help you with it. My husband was a supervisor for the pre-collection address verification last fall, so I know a little bit more about it, maybe than most people, but contact us as your commissioners if you need help or have questions about the census. Also,
Julie, I have a question. Do you know how long it's going to get delayed?
We don't know that yet. They haven't given a firm date about that at this point, but it is right now. But what's delayed is the census takers coming to your house. You completing the census, there's no delay in that. That can be done right now at any time. But for people who don't fill it out, that portion, normally right now or at the end of the and trying to, get the information from you, the census takers, had you not completed it or answered the forms or the mail or called or done it online. Right now, that portion of it is delayed, but you completing the census on your own is not delayed. You can be done at any time. And we really, really need everyone to do that. Very important for us. The other thing, it's just a thought that we need to think about is, it's going to be tough for a lot of our constituents going forward that have been unemployed basically during this COVID-19 crisis. So we need to be thinking about what we can do also as county commissioners, obviously legally within the law and within our power to do so, to help our constituents out moving forward. So just a thought that everyone should be keeping on their mind, and we should be brainstorming about ideas of what we can do to help them move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Nemo, do you have anything additional?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So obviously, this is a very trying time for everybody, and my message for all the constituents is to still understand that we're going to get through this more strongly, and I truly believe, and also would like to concur with tomorrow's coalition, or April 15th, will be surrounding the area of the state capitol, and I think it's critical. Whoever can make it, it's good. I support that. And I still would like to just go ahead and not only give this message to our constituents, but more strongly to the comments made by the governor that she's truly driving us out of business. Is affecting my constituents, is affecting specifically District 5, and I know in the entirety to the whole county. These non-essential businesses that are remaining closed has been a big, it's been very, very troublesome. But we also understand that we've given order to follow the CDC guidelines, and I like to reiterate that as human beings we can use our common sense. A lot of people always say, that most people are just working, they're too busy, and they never protest. But I think at this point, my only message up front, not only to the governor, but to our constituents and we as leaders, that we should not be letting the higher hierarchy or the government to decide who is essential. Rather, I would like to see our governor tell us what jobs and activities can be done safely. That should be a question to us as county. To counties, and we need to make that safety deciding factor and allow people in low-risk communities and workplaces to begin getting back to normal. And we can do all of that and still prioritize public health and deciding the factor. Because with all of this, given to understand, we're having a critical time with COVID-19, but we also need to understand that it is important to have folks who are truly sick, that they be quarantined, they get better so that we can move forward. I am more concerned about our economy, and I think as local officials, without breaking any protocols and laws, like Julie rightly said, that we need to be able to see how we can troubleshoot with the help of our constituents to move forward, rather than sitting down and say, okay, this works for us, this executive order. No, it does not. It's violating our very First Amendment right. So I think we can use common sense, and we can slowly start to open up small businesses, of course, adhering, make no mistake, to the CDC guidelines and keeping the distances. So that's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Ruth?
No, sir.
Bruce? Bruce, do you have any additional comments?
Oh, lost him, looks like.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good comments. I will reiterate the census just briefly. We got our in the mail. Shelley went online and it took probably less than 10 minutes. She was tickled at how easy it was. So I didn't even have to do it. But I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Julie or Ruth, I believe it can even be done online on a smartphone, can it?
Yes, you are right, Mr. Chairman. I did it on a smartphone.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So you don't really need a computer, and most everybody's got a smartphone, except for me, but there was some talk about local businesses. You'd be surprised at how happy some of the local restaurants are when you call them up and order your evening meal on carryout. And we've done that a couple, 2 or 3 times. We're going to do it a few more. Those people are just shy of ecstatic to have you come and pick up your food from them and kind of help them to stay in business. So that would be my take home message is if you're going to help the local, go to your local restaurant that's open and do the carry out or the curbside pickup. So that's all I have. With that said, thank you all for participating. We'll adjourn for today, and thank you again. Stay safe.
Thank you. Stay safe.
Thank you. Stay safe and God bless everybody.